The basic equation for a Democratic presidential victory this year is not rocket science, right? It's pretty much just do what they did in 2020 when President Joe Biden won by more than 7 million votes nationwide, representing 4.5 points, percentage points, and 306 electoral votes to Trump's 232. And what the polling showed over the first 6 months or so of this year was that winning formula, the 2020 coalition that had beaten Donald Trump, had started to erode. Biden was not hitting his numbers with several Democratic groups that had supported him in 2020, and Trump was outright winning at least some of them. Now, crucially, Trump also had leads in just about all the battleground states, which is where the elections won or lost, thanks to the Electoral College, and some of those leads were fairly substantial. If you take a look at this Cook Political Report swing state survey back in May, where they polled folks in those states, Trump was up or breaking even against Biden basically everywhere: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, and Nevada, where he's up by a whopping 9 points. But look at Cook's latest swing state numbers. Same poll, same states. Vice President Kamala Harris has pulled the polling in her direction in every state, taking the lead in 5 of them, even clipping Trump's lead by 6 points in Nevada, which has been the strongest state in this poll, according to the May survey. All these polls, both from May and August, are, let's be clear, very close within the margin of error. But if you look at that data, it does seem to represent a real shift in the race, something we're seeing in other polling as well. Dave Wasserman is a senior editor and elections analyst with the Cook Political Report. He helped oversee this polling. Tatish Inteta is a professor of political science at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, also serves as the polling director there, and they both join me now. Dave, let me just ask you for the sort of top line apple-to-apple comparison. You've got the same poll run a few months apart by the same folks in the same states post the change in the Democratic nominee, and we see something that aligns with most of the data that I've been seeing. What's your take?
Well, you don't need our battery of swing state polls to tell that Kamala Harris has far more paths to 270 electoral votes than Joe Biden did. But the biggest difference that stood out to me between our same polls in May and what we just conducted was that among lower engagement voters. Back in May, there was a yawning divide between the voters who were 4 out of 4 in the past 4 federal elections, so showed up to vote in 16, 18, 20, and 22. They supported Joe Biden 49 to 45. Trump was ahead among everyone else 51 to 41. Look at this poll, and Kamala Harris is still up 4 with those highest engagement voters who have the highest levels of civic and institutional trust, up 50 to 46. But she's closed the gap among the lower engagement cohort to just 3 points, 48-45 Trump lead. And what that tells me is that Kamala Harris is a far better pop culture candidate than Joe Biden. She has a lot of strengths on social media and is doing better among younger voters, doing better among peripherally engaged voters of color. And that is the key to closing this gap. And it's produced a very, very close race.
That's such a great point because, Tatish, I've been talking about it as these sort of bullseye with concentric circles. In the middle of the bullseye, and again, I think we've seen this through all the data, let's say before when it was Biden, is like in the center of the bullseye is people who vote in just like every election. We're talking like it's mid-August and it's a special primary, right? And they're just out there. And those folks are like the most plus, Biden plus 10, plus 12, right? We see it in Democratic overperformance in those special elections, low turnout. And then it's people who vote in, all of the midterms and all the local elections, as people who just vote in presidentials, and as people who are registered might not have people not registered. And as you moved out of the circles, Biden was doing worse and worse and worse. What does the polling picture look like to you in terms of that drop off and what Harris does there?
Yeah, I think the key factor here is that Harris has sort of injected energy into the Democratic coalition, and in particular, the Obama coalition of young people, as Dave said, people of color, but also of women. And you're seeing sort of substantial increases in the level of support for the Democratic candidate, in this case, Kamala Harris, relative to Biden amongst these groups who historically, particularly as it pertains to young people and people of color, have been lower engagement voters. And so I think what we're seeing is what a number of, Democratic donors, a number of prominent elected Democratic officials had said is that, Joe Biden wasn't able to mobilize and to create the energy and enthusiasm amongst the voters that are necessary in order to win a national election.
You know, it's funny, too, because, as long as I've been covering politics, David, and this goes all the way back to Gingrich's, enormous midterm victory in 94, right? It tended to be flipped. It was certainly true in 94, certainly true in 2010. The Republican Party had the sort of like, we vote in every election coalition. The Democratic Party had more infrequent voters, had to turn them out. And it's interesting to me that in your polling, I want to talk about the likely voter screen, Dave. So you guys do some sort of likely voter screen. You try to model or ask how likely people are to vote. And there you see Harris winning by 6 in Pennsylvania, by 5 in Wisconsin, up 5 in Nevada, which is fascinating, if I'm not mistaken. Or do I have that right? No, sorry. That's the swings. That's among likely voters. There it is. Thank you. And that includes third parties. So we're still seeing that here, right? I mean, that's still showing up in the data for you guys.
Yeah, this is all likely voters, to be clear, Chris. But what we did notice was that including third parties expanded Harris's lead. And so
that's what it
tells you is that RFK Jr. has collapsed, but some of that third party support, including his, has gone to her, which validates the theory that he has basically been a parking place for dissatisfaction among younger voters with the geriatric showdown that existed for the first half of the year. Now, Kamala Harris has benefited from just about as favorable a news environment as you can imagine over the course of the past couple weeks. But the key, I think, to sustaining the momentum we're seeing for her will be whether she can seize the center. And there are some warning signs for her in this poll. 53% of voters in these battleground states agreed with the statement that she's too liberal to govern the country effectively. So she needs to blunt that. And the biggest weakness for Trump, obviously, 57% of voters believe he's too erratic and out of control to govern the country effectively. So the candidate who can best assuage those concerns will win.
Yeah, it's interesting because they have the DNC, right? They have this sort of remarkable canvas to deal with. Tatish, you did some really interesting polling on Project 2025, which I want to talk on, which is sort of in this different category, right? So the top line is, as Dave was talking about, the sort of pop cultural phenomenon of Harris. One of the things we've also seen is the pop cultural phenomenon of Project 2025. And quickly, what's your sort of top line on what you learned from that polling?
Yeah, so the central thing that we found is that Americans are well aware of Project 2025. 51% of Americans indicated that they've heard some or a lot of Project 2025. And then secondarily, it's extremely unpopular. The policies associated with Project 2025, most notably firing civil servants for political appointees that are loyal to the president. Majorities oppose that. Majorities oppose restricting contraception to women. Majorities oppose the elimination of the Department of Education. So the policies associated with this particular set of this sort of Republican playbook are extremely unpopular, even amongst Trump voters. We see majorities opposed to these policies. And the more you know about Project 2025, that's associated with lower support for Donald Trump. So it's no surprise that he's attempted to distance himself from Project 2025, given the overwhelming unpopularity of the policies that make up this playbook.
I will note that the shutting down social media companies and websites over pornography has plurality support, which was surprising and an interesting wrinkle in the data. We'll come back to that. Dave Wasserman, Tatish and Teta, thank you both.